Good morning. I am Maria Subhashini, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. The course name which I am going to handle is Physico-Chemical Process for Water and Wastewater Treatment. The course code is U18 PCCE 603. The topic to be discussed is pollutants in water and wastewater. So, what are water quality standards? Water quality standards indicates the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of water. It is a measure of the condition of water related to the requirements of one or more biotic species or to any human need or purpose. It is the most frequently used standards by reference to a set of parameters against which the water quality can be assessed and compared. The most common standards used to assess water quality relate and they mean an impact on the health of ecosystems, safety of the human beings coming in contact with the water, and drinking water used by the human beings and the animals. What is wastewater? Water that has been used in the home, in a business, or as a part of an industrial process can be called wastewater. Water that has been used in washing, flushing, in manufacturing process, in cleaning process, in producing a process, etc., can also be called as wastewater. So this picture shows wastewater coming out from an industrial unit. You can see the change in color. Usually, uh, pure water does not have any color, but this water comes with a color. So wastewater can also be defined as liquid waste often produced as a byproduct of many uses of water. So there are different uses of water. That is, we have household uses, industrial uses, commercial uses, agricultural uses, and livestock uses. Types of wastewater. So there are different types of wastewater. Domestic wastewater, which is used for domestic purposes, or for municipal wastewater supply, or sewage. The industrial wastewaters, that is for coming as industrial effluents. Then agricultural wastewater coming from agricultural runoff. Then we have storm water runoff. So this picture shows different uses of water. So first we can take the use of water in the homes for residential purposes. So So that is the first use. Second use can be your use for agriculture. So that is for irrigation. So for irrigation, mainly the water is supplied from the rivers, from the dams, from the reservoirs. So next important use is the industrial use. For different industrial purposes, as a as a main raw material, or for a cleaning purpose, or for acting as a catalyst for inducing some reactions. So water can be used, or water can be used even in boilers for heating purpose, or can be used as a raw material for any other secondary processes. The third important use of water is for the production of hydroelectric power. So that is usually done in a dam with a reservoir unit where a hydroelectric power plant is installed. Then the next use will be for recreational use. So this picture depicts different uses at different places. So water is not only used in a village area, in a rural area, but also it is used in an industrial area, it is used in an urban area, it is used in a town. So there are different uses of water. So the water which comes out as a byproduct of all these uses is called as wastewater. So water which is used can be used at the source itself, or it can be taken and it can be stored in a protective place and it can be supplied, or it can be directly taken from the source, or it can be processed, it can be purified, and also it can be supplied by the different departments. So we see about the different water quality parameters which are used to assess the purity of water. So first one is pH, second one is temperature, third one is color, fourth one is turbidity, fifth one is conductivity, sixth one is dissolved oxygen or DO. Then we have biochemical oxygen demand, which can be carbonaceous BOD and nitrogenous BOD. Then we have COD, that is chemical oxygen demand. Then we have acidity or alkalinity. This is dependent upon the pH. Then we have hardness, um, which gives the property of water to lather with the soap, or for different purposes. This hardness is an important characteristic to be determined. Then we have different types of solids present as pollutants in the water. It can be total solids, it can be suspended solids, it can be dissolved solids, mixed solids, volatile solids. There are different nutrients present in water. It is nitrogen and phosphorus. Then we have different metals present: iron, aluminium, chromium, zinc, nickel, etc. So these are all the above properties indicate the chemical characteristics of water. Then at last we have the fecal coliform, which indicates the biological characteristic of water. So let us see about the first important quality parameter of water, that is pH. So pH is nothing but the hydrogen ion concentration of water, or any fluid. So this pH is a very important property for water treatment, wastewater treatment, and to show as an indicator for different properties of water. So this pH is a chemical property. So pH of fresh waters typically ranges between 6.5 to 8. However, it could vary from around 4.5 to over 10.0 in certain cases. So depending upon the pollution level of the water or the wastewater, the pH will be varying. So the pH can be, the neutral pH is 7. So if it is above or below this pH 7, it indicates it is alkaline water or it is acidic water. So pH of wastewater varies according to the source of its generation. Extreme of pH may adversely affect the aquatic ecology in surface water bodies. So different aquatic organisms, plants, and aquatic organisms like fishes, then different organisms, frogs, amphibians. So different organisms, they are affected by the increase or in the decrease of pH. The surface water bodies, mainly like your water from rivers, from lakes, from ponds. The range of pH suitable for fisheries is considered to be 5 to 9, though 6.5 to 8.5 is preferable. Usually, this 6.5 to 8.5 range is the preferred range of pH for potable drinking water. So, this device shows a pH meter. So, this is a pH meter. This is the meter which measures, this is the unit which measures the pH. Then we have a probe which is inserted into the water. So, this is the water sample or this is the wastewater sample, into which we have to insert this probe. So before starting the process, we have to standardize this pH meter using a standard solution. So this standard solution can be prepared or it is available from the company itself. So after inserting the probe into the standard solution, we have to take the probe out, we have to clean it, and again we can check whether the meter is standardized. Then we can use the wastewater sample to finding out the actual pH of the water or the wastewater. So this diagram shows the different standards of pH used. So usually you can see here we have different colors. So we have the neutral pH to be 7. So if it is below 7, it is considered to be acidic. If it is greater than 7 or above 7, it is considered to be alkaline. So if it is going to be 6 or if it is going to be 5, it is considered to be slightly acidic. If it is 1, nearing 1 or 2, it is considered to be very highly acidic. Then we have the pH is going to be 8 or 9, it is considered to be slightly alkaline. If it is going to be 13 or 14, it is considered to be very highly alkaline. So very acidic water or very alkaline, very high alkaline water is very harmful for the human beings who are consuming the water, or the water sources into which the wastewater is disposed, or any um, environmental factor which is going to come in contact with this pH, high pH or very low pH of water will be getting affected. So this shows clear water. So usually drinking water does not have any color. It is colorless, and also the pH range is from 6.5 to 8.5 or 6.5 to 9. So next important physical parameter we are going to discuss is temperature. The effect of temperature or the change in temperature is very important and critical for all living organisms. So aquatic population can withstand only tolerable limits of temperature, which varies from species to species. So usually very high temperature or very low temperature is very harmful to the aquatic population. So some key constituents of water or pollutants changes forms based upon the temperature. So the chemical composition, physical composition of the pollutant will certainly change when there is a very high increase in the temperature, or when there is a very low decrease in the temperature. It may be of water or it may be of wastewater. So this temperature usually it is related to the source of this water or this wastewater. So usually water does not have very uh, variation in temperature, but if it is going to be wastewater, so the wastewater, the temperature will depend upon the source from which the wastewater is discharged. So it may be from a chemical industry, or it may be from a pharmaceutical industry, or it can be from a boiler, or it can be from a thermal power plant. So depending upon that, the temperature of water, this wastewater will vary. And also the receiving waters or the receiving environment, maybe land environment or water environment, it is highly disturbed and harmed by this very high temperature of wastewater. The rate of most of the biochemical reactions are also a factor of temperature. So usually a slight increase in temperature is considered to be very good for the efficiency of this biochemical reactions. So next important parameter we are going to discuss is color. Color is important from the standpoint of aesthetics. If water looks with some color, people avoid using colored waters, even though it might be safe from the public health aspect, often caused by organic substances such as algae or humic compounds. So usually this color may be due to the increased turbidity of the water. It may be due to any organic substances, or it may be due to inorganic salts. But usually water, this pure water is colorless. If it is having some color, it indicates that there is some sort of pollution. Maybe it may be due to a suspended solid, or it may be due to a dissolved solid, or it may be due to some algae, or it may be due to some bacteria or virus, or maybe due to some chemical which is mixed in the water. So apparent color is usually caused by suspended matter. True color is caused by dissolved or colloidal matters such as vegetable or organic extracts. How to measure color? So color is usually measured by the standard color solutions method, in which the color produced by 1 milligram per liter of platinum and zero point 0.5 milligram per liter of cobalt is taken as the standard unit of color. Next method is the dilution multiple method. So in this method, the color is measured by successive dilutions of the sample with color-free water until the color is no longer detectable compared with distilled water. The number of dilutions multiplied is calculated and used to express the color degree. So this is a dilution multiple method. It's a very simple method. So in which the wastewater is taken and how many times the sample is diluted with water, how many times it is being diluted to bring to the original color. That is, the water should not be with any color. So how many times it is done to change that wastewater with having some color to a colorless water. So that is what is the main principle of dilution principle. The last and the very swift method or quick method of color measurement is spectrophotometric method, which is using the spectrophotometer. So next important parameter of water quality is turbidity. So turbidity is the property by which uh, there is a resistance to the passage of light in the water. That is a basic definition. It is an optical characteristic or property which in general terms describes the clarity or haziness of water. That is how clear the water is. So if the water is very clear, light can easily pass through the water. If it is not clear, if it is having some total solids, suspended solids, maybe some mud particles, solid particles, or any chemical particles, then it will cause some um, turbidity in the water, and it will not be able to allow the passage of light through the water. So how much it resists the passage of light will give the turbidity of that water or wastewater. So turbidity is caused by the presence of very fine suspended particles. So these particles cannot be easily removed by filtration techniques or by routine methods. So as long as water is having turbidity, it is considered to be impure water. So this turbidity has to be removed by some method or other, maybe by a sedimentation method or by any conventional method of water treatment or wastewater treatment. So how do you measure turbidity? So usually it is measured using turbidity method, that is the intensity of light which has passed through that water is measured, or it is measured using the nephelometric turbidity units. So if a beam of light is passed through a turbid water sample or wastewater sample, its intensity is reduced by scattering. That is, the intensity of the passage of light is reduced by scattering. The quantity of light scattered is dependent upon the concentration and the size distribution of the particles. So there are so usually the easiest and quickest method of measuring turbidity is your turbidity meter. So in which the unit is nephelometric turbidity units. So, so how far turbidity is prevalent in your wastewater can be measured using your jar test. So jar test acts as a tool for aiding the measurement of turbidity. So this picture shows three water samples. So this is clear water. So this is water is having little turbidity. This is having more turbidity. So you can see. So you can see the clearness of water. So which is low turbidity. So when you see this, there is some light passing through this water, and there is a reflection of that light. So this is clear water without any turbidity. So with the least amount of turbidity. So this water is little turbid water, and this is the most turbid water. So just as an example, they have shown this. So this type of turbid waters can be actually present, or just as an example for testing under the lab, they can be prepared as samples by mixing mud or soil with the water, and you can assess them using your turbidity unit method, and Using this jar test method, you can increase the turbidity, and you can make the solid particles to settle, and then you can measure the turbidity. So actually this is the turbidity meter. So you can see the turbidity is usually measured in nephrometric turbidity units, and these bottles show the turbidity of different samples. See, you can see the number 10, 25, 50, 100, 250. So you can see this clear bottle with clear water. It has turbidity of 10 NTU. So this is slightly hazy, and it is also having slight color. So it is having a turbidity of 25 neplometric turbidity units. Here you have 50 turbidity neplometric turbidity units. Here this is a little darker brown color, so 100 NTU. So this is a very dark brown color. So it has a turbidity unit of 250. So this is how we can distinguish. So not even using a turbidity meter, just by seeing the different samples of water having turbidity, we can easily distinguish between different wastewater samples having different turbidities. So the next important parameter for water quality measurement is conductivity. So conductivity is nothing but the ability of water or wastewater to conduct electric current or to carry an electric current. So absolutely pure water is a poor conductor of electricity. Water shows significant conductivity when dissolved salts are present. Over most ranges, the amount of conductivity is directly proportional to the amount of salts dissolved in the water. So as the salts and solids which are present in water or wastewater increases, the conductivity also increases. A conductivity sensor measures how much electricity is being conducted through a centimeter of water. So specific conductivity is expressed as Siemens per centimeter. So the unit of specific conductivity is Siemens per centimeter. So this conductivity is a direct indicator of how much total solids is present in the water or wastewater. So this is your electrical conductivity meter. So this is the meter unit, measuring unit, and here you have a stand and you have a probe and you have this sample or wastewater sample. Similar to a pH meter and turbidity meter, this conductivity meter, electrical conductivity meter also has to be standardized using a standard solution. Then after standardizing by immersing in the standard solution, the next step is to insert the probe inside a wastewater sample and to measure the conductivity. See, all these devices are readily available in the market. They can be bought and it can be used in the environmental labs and chemistry labs. The next important chemical parameter of wastewater is hardness. So hardness is the presence of calcium and magnesium ions as hydrogen carbonate ions. So usually magnesium carbonate, magnesium bicarbonate, then calcium bicarbonate, calcium carbonates, calcium sulfates, magnesium sulfates, calcium chloride, magnesium chlorides are all the reasons for the presence of hardness. So temporary hardness is due to bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium. Permanent hardness is due to sulfates, chlorides, and nitrates of calcium and magnesium. See, actually, hardness is a presence of these salts, which causes a problem in the lathering of the water with the soap. So, and also when you use water with a very high hardness, when you boil the water, it gives, at the end of the boiling, it gives scales and salt deposition in the vessel or in the boilers, which is used for boiling the water. So it is a very important parameter which has to be analyzed before using the water for water supply or for any other chemical reaction purposes or for any industrial purposes. So next important biological parameter is your dissolved oxygen or DO. So the water or wastewater stream system produces and consumes oxygen. It gains oxygen from the atmosphere by phase transfer method and from plants as a result of photosynthesis. While respiration by aquatic animals, decomposition and various chemical reactions consume dissolved oxygen in water. The natural stream purification processes require adequate oxygen levels in order to provide for aerobic life forms. As dissolved oxygen levels go below 4.0 milligram per liter, aquatic life is put under stress. DO levels that remain below 1 to 2 milligram per liter for a few hours can result in large fish to be killed. So usually DO is measured using DO meters and probes. So we have electrochemical DO sensors as well as optical sensors available in the market. So these meters and probes measure temperature and give standard analog output as well as digital outputs in the form of smart sensor platforms. These probes and meters should be calibrated from time to time to get accurate measurements. So this picture shows the Winkler-Azide method of DO measurement. So here we use a DOD bottle in which we had the sample of water for which the DO is to be found. Then we had 1 ml of manganese sulfate. Then we had again 1 ml of alkali iodide azide solution. Then we close the bottle, DOD bottle, and we shake the DOD bottle for allowing the chemicals to be mixed well. Then after that we add 1 ml of sulfuric acid. Then again we replace the stopper and we mix the DOD bottle well. Then we titrate this DOD bottle sample having a quantity of 201 ml against the burette solution. So after titrating, we add 1 ml of starch as an indicator by which we get blue color. So we continue the titration until this blue color changes. So the point at which this blue color changes to clear with no color is the indication of the end of the titration. And this value is taken from the burette and it is used for calculation and it directly gives the value of DO present in the wastewater sample. So this dissolved oxygen has different fluctuations. So it fluctuates over a 24-hour period. The DO varies with water temperature and altitude. Cold water holds more oxygen than warm water and water holds less oxygen at higher altitudes. Aquatic animals are more subjected to lower DO levels in the early morning on hot summer days when the stream flows are low. Water temperatures are high and the aquatic plants are not producing oxygen since sunset. In smaller, shallower streams, DO changes more horizontally along the course of the waterway. But in larger, deeper rivers, some vertical stratification of DO might also occur. So, biochemical oxygen demand or biological oxygen demand is an important biological parameter. It present in water, serves as a substrate or food source for the microorganisms present there. The wastewater receiving rivers and streams have some background dissolved oxygen, and the aerobic microorganisms present consume the dissolved oxygen for decomposing the organic matter into simpler compounds. However, the dissolved oxygen keeps on getting replenished by natural atmospheric transfer and from photosynthesis. The amount of oxygen required by aerobic microorganisms to decompose the organic matter in a wastewater sample is typically referred as biochemical oxygen demand or biological oxygen demand. This BOD is a time-dependent factor as the oxygen consumed by the bacteria will increase or decrease with the progress of time. When the BOD levels are high, dissolved oxygen levels decrease because the oxygen that is available in the water is being consumed by the bacteria. If the quantity of organic matter present in the is very large, the rate of bacterial uptake in the oxygen will outstrip that at which the DO is replenished, and ultimately the receiving water will become anoxic or anaerobic. So we have different types of DOD. So the requirement of DO for the process for nitrification process is called as nitrogenous BOD, while the requirement of oxygen for degrading carbonaceous organic matter is referred as CBOD or carbonaceous biochemical oxygen demand. So BOD5 quantifies the oxygen consumed in a sample within a 5-day period. Ultimate BOD quantifies the oxygen required for the total biochemical degradation of organic matter. Generally, the 5-day period is not long enough for complete oxidation, but it provides sufficient time for microbial acclimatization and for substantial oxidation. The DOD test is a standardized test where the final DO after 5 days is subtracted from the initial DO to know the oxygen consumed during the period of incubation. So, chemical oxygen demand. So, COD is a measure of organic materials present in wastewater in terms of the oxygen required to oxidize the organic materials chemically. So, COD is measured as a standardized laboratory assay in which the closed water sample is incubated with a strong chemical oxidant called as potassium dichromate, which is used in combination with boiling sulfuric acid. COD along with BOD are two different ways to measure how much oxygen the water will consume when it enters the recipient. In both COD and BOD tests, the organic material, the concentration is calculated from the oxidant consumption necessary for the oxidation of the organic material. So usually COD values are always higher than BOD values. Another important physical characteristic of wastewater is solids. So solids mean it refers to the mass of solids present in the water. The total solid mass present in the water could be in suspended, dissolved, volatile, or fixed nature. Based on these, the different measures of solids are estimated. Inorganic salts in water often remains in dissolved stage and are non-volatile even at high temperatures. Therefore, it contributes to the fixed dissolved solids FDS, while fixed suspended solids are inorganic particles suspended in the liquid, such as undissolved salt crystals and silt particles. Organic compounds which are all volatile that get burnt at high temperature are called as volatile dissolved solids, for example, sugars, fatty acids, etc. While suspended organic matters and especially microorganisms contribute to the VSS or volatile suspended solids. The sum of FDS and VDS is referred to as total dissolved solids. Sum of VSS and FSS is called as total suspended solids. So this picture shows the interrelationship between the solids in different forms present in water and wastewater. The last important parameter of wastewater is biological concentration. So, fecal coliform indicates the biological property of water. So, the important method for measuring the fecal coliform present in wastewater is the MPN method. The MPN method is the most commonly applied parameter for microbiological quality testing of water. Fecal coliforms act as an indicator for fecal contamination of water. Very few fecal coliform bacteria would indicate that the water probably contains no disease causing organisms, while microbiologically contaminated water would exhibit the presence of large numbers of fecal coliform bacteria and high MPN values. Fecal coliform are indicator organisms and are not usually pathogenic by themselves. The separate estimates could be obtained for total and fecal coliform bacteria if needed. So this diagram shows total coliform which is going to contribute to the environmental contamination, and this fecal coliform is fecal coliform plus E. coli which also contributes to environmental contamination. So the inorganic chemicals present in wastewater will be the metals. The metals which are present in small traces are also very harmful for this biological life. They become toxic and impose great risk to the human health as well as environment. Both municipal and industrial wastewaters contain various metals. However, industrial discharges are may have excessively high metal concentrations depending on the industrial process. The metallic concentration can be determined using Flay atomic absorption, electrothermal atomic absorption, inductively coupled plasma, or IPC or mass spectrometric method. So in these, the metals, some metals are considered to be high priority pollutant metals. See, there are various nutrients which are also present which cause pollution in the water. So the main pollutants which are causing pollution as a nutrient will be your excess nitrogen and phosphorus. So this excess nitrogen and phosphorus, they may be present in the streams, lakes, rivers, and in coastal waters, and they may cause algae to grow faster than the ecosystems can handle, resulting in large growth of algae. It is called as algal bloom. So these algal blooms will harm water quality, food resources and habitats and decrease or eliminate the oxygen that fish and other aquatic life need to survive. In these, nutrients can be measured by different methods. The forms of phosphorus that are usually measured include total phosphorus, total dissolved phosphorus, an inorganic component of phosphorus called as orthophosphate. The different forms of nitrogen nutrients are total nitrogen, total kildar nitrogen, inorganic forms of nitrogen, nitrite, and ammonia. So, standard chemical procedures or field chemistry kits are typically available for the measurement of these nutrients. Even though the nutrients may be present in small quantities, they contribute to the pollution of water. Lastly, there are certain emerging pollutants which are also causing pollution. So these compounds include pesticides, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, antimicrobials, antibiotics, hormones, phthalate plasticizers, surfactants, etc. These are toxic in nature and have identifiable new techniques to find out their concentration even in small quantities and to prevent pollution. So with this, we come to the end of the topic on water and wastewater pollutants. Thank you.